This is Tales and Whispers, where every story is felt, not just heard.
So, I want to tell you a story. It's a story from the streets of Paris that, on the surface, seems pretty simple. But wow, it really makes you ask a tough question. When does an act of mercy actually become an act of cruelty? Let's get into it. All right, so just picture this. You're in Paris, it's cold, the city is bustling. But for people living on the streets, that world can feel absolutely enormous and honestly pretty indifferent. People just walk by like you're a shadow, totally invisible. It's a loneliness that's hard to even imagine. And for one homeless man, we don't even know his name. This quote was basically his everyday life. The world was just this huge, empty space, and he was all alone. Well, almost alone. See, in all that loneliness, this man had one constant, one absolutely vital companion. A little puppy who was always by his side. And this wasn't just a pet, you know? This puppy was his entire world. Their life together was this simple but really powerful routine. Every single day, they'd look for food, and if the man found, say, even half a sandwich, you can bet that puppy was eating first. Every time. At night, they'd huddle up, not just to stay warm, but for that feeling of having someone there with you. And the puppy gave that love right back, barking at strangers, basically telling the world, hey, back off, this is my person. That connection was everything. It was a whole life, a reason to keep going. But then, one day in 2015, that entire world just shattered. So one day, a group from an animal rights organization came up to him. Their mission, they said, was to protect the puppy, to give it a better life. And, you know, that sounds noble, right? The intention seems great. But the way they did it was anything but. You've got these two completely different realities crashing into each other. On one side, the organization is thinking warm home, regular meals, safety for the dog, makes sense on paper. But on the other side is the man's reality. They didn't talk to him, didn't ask, they just forcefully took his dog. And in an instant, all he was left with was a deafening, suffocating quiet. And what happened next? Someone caught on video. It's just the man's raw, desperate cries of grief. He lost the only thing in the world that mattered to him. And this incredibly personal, painful moment, it went viral. The whole world started watching. The response from people online was just immediate and massive. A petition went up demanding the dog be returned, and it exploded. It got more than 240,000 signatures. I mean, think about that. That's not just a few people. That is a global outcry. And here's the thing. The people signing weren't against helping animals, not at all. They were just asking a really simple but powerful question that got right to the heart of it. Why does this protection only apply to the puppy? What about the human being standing right there? Why was his dignity, his heart, completely ignored? So the pressure from the public and even the legal system just became too much to ignore. And in the end, the organization gave in. The dog was returned to the man. They were back together on the street. But, you know, the story wasn't really the same anymore. It left a scar. So if you look at the whole story, it's kind of like a 4-act play. First, you have the bond, then the traumatic separation. After that, the incredible public campaign that gave this man a voice. And finally, the reunion. But even with that happy ending, the whole incident became this really stark warning about how good intentions can go so wrong. And you know, this one story, this painful moment on a street in Paris, it shines a light on a really fundamental truth about compassion, one that we tend to forget when we're in a rush to do good. And the lesson is this: true mercy, real compassion, it can't be divided. You can't just apply it selectively to help one being if it means completely devastating another. Let's call this idea indivisible mercy. It's compassion that really forces us to step back and look at the whole picture. Yeah, it's about protecting someone vulnerable, for sure, but it's about doing it in a way that doesn't completely shatter the world of another person who might be just as, or even more, vulnerable. So, okay, how can we actually apply this in our own lives? Well, first, we've got to train ourselves to see the whole situation, not just the one part that grabs our attention. Second, before we jump in to help, we have to ask a crucial question: who might get hurt by this decision? And third, we've got to find ways to help that build people up, that don't break the few precious things a person has left. Really, it all comes down to this simple idea. This is the balance we have to find. Protecting an animal should never, ever mean you cancel out a person's dignity. And guess what? The reverse is true too. They aren't mutually exclusive. We can and we should care about both. I want to leave you with a final thought here. Just for a second, try to put yourself in that man's shoes. What's the one thing in your life, a person, a pet, a memory, maybe just a hope, that if it were suddenly ripped away from you, would make you feel like your entire world was just gone? That is the weight of what was lost and thankfully found again on that street in Paris.